Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, friends. Welcome to another episode of the Marketing Your Practice podcast. I've always been super fascinated by why people do what they do. And I think this probably started from when I became a chiropractor. I don't know if I thought about it before that too, but I wondered why two different patients could get such different results, mostly because of the actions that they would take. So I would give one set of my patients some home instructions, whether it be some exercise, some lifestyle changes. They would implement these things, they would get great results. And then I would do and give the same kind of instructions to somebody else, and they wouldn't do them. And more recently, what's really fascinating, I'm super curious about, is I can have somebody buy one of my courses, whether it be maybe video influence, which I'll talk about in a moment there too. They can implement with passion and energy, they get fabulous results. And then I have other people buy my course and literally not watch a video. It's hard to imagine, but they spend, a whole whack of money and they don't even get started. So I kind of wonder why that is there too. Now, we spend a lot of time on the podcast here talking clearly about marketing, which doesn't, surprise you given it's called the Marketing Your Practice podcast there too. And we market because we want to have more impact, more influence, we want more new patients, we want more income, all of those kind of things there too. So there's something that we want to have, so therefore we know that there's something that we have to do. But we often forget that there is a phase that comes before the doing. And the phase that comes before the doing is really, who do we need to be to do that? And maybe you've heard of this concept of be, do, and have. So, we want to have something, more new patients, greater impact, influence. What do I need to do? Marketing. But there's a kind of person that we need to be beforehand. Now, recently, I had a really super guy buy one of my courses, Video Influence, through the brand new course. His name is Ben Carvosso. So Ben and I have been friendly for 20 years. I haven't had as much contact with Ben over the last 5 or 10 or so. Ben is doing some amazing high performance coaching. He's still in practice a little bit, but he works with entrepreneurs and business owners and does some really amazing stuff there too. So I had a coaching call with Ben, and Ben got in here and he laid out this whole strategy right the way through. What was their purpose with buying the course, what their plans were, the kind of personality that they needed to be in terms of who they needed to be, what kind of values that they need to take on, the characteristics, what their plans were in terms of productivity, and then their ultimate goals in terms of their profit. And I was blown away. And then it didn't surprise me that within no time at all, his team was all aligned with regards to this, and they're already making videos and they're already getting great results. And I asked Ben, Ben, will you come on the podcast and talk through this whole process of the kind of things that we need to be doing before we get into the doing phase of stuff? Ben said yes, and this is what this episode is all about. It's such important work. There are a couple of key distinctions in there that I'm sure if you've done any self-development type of work that you may have talked about, the kind of characteristics that, for instance, if you need to be more brave, if you need to be more vulnerable, it's one thing to say I need to be this, but Ben has a really great strategy. He talks about how do we take on these characteristics of being brave, of all those kind of things there too. He's got a stunning framework that I've never had somebody kind of break it down just quite so simply. So this episode will be really helpful for you if you're really struggling to follow through on the things that you know you ought to be doing. Now, whether that be your marketing, whether that be your eating, your exercise, whether that be your relationships, whether it be other parts of your business, if you're not getting the results that you want to get because you know you're not following through, then in this episode, you're going to get some brilliant tips and strategies and a framework that will really help you with that too. So that's enough of me talking. Let's jump in and talk to the amazing Dr. Ben Carvosso.
Welcome to the Marketing Your Practice podcast, where we guide natural health and wellness experts through the pitfalls of marketing. Each episode, you'll learn simple, effective, easily actionable, and heart-centered marketing strategies. And here's your host, Angus Pyke.
Ben Carvosso, welcome to the Marketing Your Practice podcast. How are you, buddy?
Mate, fantastic. Thanks for having me on.
Mate, it's a pleasure. You and I have recently rehooked up again. Back in the old days of dynamic growth here in Australia, where I feel like we used to see each other a lot more then, and then paths have kind of veered away and they've come back together there too. And it's been an absolute pleasure, buddy. So how's life for you at the moment?
Mate, it's actually fantastic. I know we're in the whole COVID thing at the moment, and we're in Metro Melbourne and we're still doing the lockdown thing, but mate, it's great. And I'm looking out there today. It is going to be 26 today. The sun is shining. We're heading into spring. I'm good.
Yeah, this perspective is damn important, isn't it? I mean, I'm going to say for one moment that I like being told what to do under these circumstances, but there's a hell of a lot to be grateful for, all things considered, though.
Yeah, I love that saying, and I use it often, that we live in a meaningless world. that we're constantly putting meaning to.
Yes.
We get to choose the meaning, and we get to choose whether the meaning is resourceful. Is it good for us, good for the people around us? Does it build us up? Does it make us better and stronger and fitter and faster and more flexible? Or do we put a meaning to something that's unresourceful?
Yeah.
That makes us feel trapped and stuck.
Yeah, we're very fortunate. We have a personal trainer come around to the house on a Wednesday. Jim is his name. We love Jim so much, and he has a little studio that he works out of also. And stage 4 COVID had him locked down completely. And Jim has a little boy who's coming up 2 years of age, and Jim has not had more than a week off with Emil since Emil was born. Too, he's running his own business, and so he's just been forced to take what turned out to be 8 weeks off, and he loved every moment. He was very excited to get back to work last week, but he said, Angus, he said, I know it sounds sad. He said, but if I'd not been forced to do this, I would never have taken 8 weeks off. And if we had, we would have been trying to travel around to see family and all those kind of things there too. And it was so nice it was a blessing for Jim, an absolute blessing because of that time that, they got to have together there too. It was a great reminder for me to kind of, as you said, to find a meaning that was kind of served me more too. Before we get into the nuts and bolts, the meats and potatoes that we're going to kind of get into today as well, can you give a little bit of your background story? Because you've done some extraordinary things up until now. I was in preparation for this, kind of having a bit of a read through the website, and it was nice to kind of see it all in a snapshot there too. But for our viewers who don't know you, give them a little bit of what's the journey up until now for you?
Okay, well, there's a few highlights, right? So I was 17, had some headaches. Mum took me to chiropractor Max Joseph. The oldies that are watching this, right, are going to know Maxie. And Max was a very powerful presence, and I remember Max adjusted my neck, and Max always used to say, when you adjust the vertebra, you want to picture yourself landing it on the wall on the other side of the room.
Yes,
that's how Max adjusted. And I remember getting in the car afterwards, driving home, and the world was brighter. It was clearer. It was more colourful. And at that point in my life, I wanted to be an electronics engineer. I remember saying to Mum and Dad, can you see that the world's brighter? And of course, they said, what are you talking about, right? And I can remember getting home, and about a couple of hours later, I walked out to the kitchen, and Mum and Dad were baking bread, and I can still remember it vividly. And I stood in the kitchen. Makes me emotional thinking about it, man, because it was such an impactful moment, right? And I remember coming out to them saying, I don't want to be an electronics engineer anymore. I want to be a chiropractor.
Wow.
And so that was a defining moment, right? And so I got into chiropractic and, hung out with the right crowd. Hang out with the crowd that had that passion, had that spizorinctum, as we say in chiropractic, for the work that we do. Anyway, graduated, bought my first practice. I tell the registration board, but 6 weeks before I graduated.
Yeah, nice.
And started in practice. And that was, of course, an epic journey, taking over a practice, being 23. And so that was amazing. Had some amazing coaches throughout that period, the beautiful John Hinwood and Judy Hinwood.
Yes.
Had CJ Mertz, the WLP guys. He was phenomenal. And so I built that practice up. And then I can't really remember, maybe 12, 13 years into that, I went on a holiday to Fiji, had this great opportunity to fall out of a palm tree and break my foot and smash into thousands. Yes. And at the time I thought, great, put a resourceful meaning to this. This will be good. I'm going to take out literally a break. I hadn't had 3 months off before. I thought I'll take 3 months off. The practice would, be great. I'll build some model aeroplanes, wander around the house in my dressing gown like Hugh Hefner, read lots of books. This will be great. So a weekend, bought the model aeroplane, big balsa, one of those giant balsa things, the remote control gear, all that stuff. Bought books, walked around in my dressing gown. And it was all good, right? And at 3 month mark, I go to the podiatry surgeon to have the cast off, thinking I'll get the cast off and next week I'll be back to work. Took the cast off and couldn't walk. Was still in lots of pain.
Right.
The foot was manky and awful. And so I had another 3 months at least of just not great, still crutches, walking stick. And so this great resourceful meaning I was put into everything all of a sudden turned to not so resourceful. And the emotion that I had turned into a feeling of despair, which eventually became a mood where I was choosing to be depressed every day.
Yeah.
And there was a moment there where I remember driving to work, seeing a pole, and thinking about how quick I'd need to hit that pole.
Wow.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I know. And I can remember I think it might have even been that morning, sitting up in bed with my wife, and she said, you know, what's up with you? You've got a beautiful family. Your practice is still great. You're just miserable all the time. And I said, I don't know. I'm just unhappy.
Yeah.
So anyway, I didn't hit the pole, went to work. And
Yeah.
probably a day or so later, a friend of mine called me and said, mate, we're building a medical clinic. We've got this huge space next to it. We're thinking of putting radiology in there.
Yes.
You're Kyrie, you do x-ray things. And I said, I do. I said, mate, let's talk about that. And then within a week, I reconnected with some of my core values. And one of my core values is creation.
Yes.
And I could see this opportunity to create again.
Yep.
So I dived in, built a radiology company. So GIG Radiology was born, bought equipment, found staff, got a building, fitted it out, sent the first bill off to Medicare, and hallelujah, we got paid. So I built that into 4 radiology practices over 7 years. We ended up, having a turnover of about $3.5 million, employed 34 staff. It was just an amazing journey, heaps of learning. And in that period, sold it at the end. Someone knocked on the door and said, hey, we want to buy you out. Sold the radiology practice. Shifted back to the Mornington Peninsula. Went to work for a good mate of mine, Carl Rash, for a little while.
Yes.
And my wife wanted to get back into being a naturopath, found a practice. So I finished up with Carl at Mornington Peninsula Chiropractic Centre and started. And I was working there a couple of days a week. And in that transition out of radiology, someone knocked on the door and said, mate, you do radiology. We're looking at building another clinic. Could you give us some advice? And my wife for many years has said, Ben, stop giving advice for free. You've spent years learning and training and experience, and people knock on your door and you give them advice, and stop doing it. So I could hear that voice in my head. I said, it's great. We could catch up Monday. We probably need a couple of hours on $150 an hour. He said, great, see you Monday. So I ran into my wife, Michelle, and said, guess what? I'm being paid for advice. So that weekend I got on the thing and Googled, what is this thing, advice? What is this thing, coaching? What is this mentoring thing? What is this?
Yeah.
And then that started my journey into the performance coaching work that I now do. So I run a chiropractic centre, have a team there, and the rest of my time is spent performance coaching, helping people with a mindset to run a business, to be the person they need to be. And of course, I wrote this incredible book, Amazon bestseller, Life CEO.
Yes.
And I think the title really says it all. It's about how to take charge of your life, how to be your own CEO.
Yeah.
To stop the busy work and to start doing your life's work. How do you take charge, stop the busy, and do your life's work? And mate, that's where I am today.
Yeah,
In a summary.
It's a great summary. We were talking last week, in fact, it was earlier this week here, that one of the things that kind of underpins great marketing, and this is what I'm really excited to talk about today, because really a lot of what we talk about on the podcast here is strategy and tactics. Shoot a video this way, set up a Facebook ad like this, here's a way to kind of think about your community outreach there too. And one of the reasons that is sometimes not successful, in fact, it's probably not that successful, is not ongoing, is that people are missing some of the steps underneath. And it's what you laid out your part of your marketing blueprint for me 2 or 3 weeks ago, and you went kind of the step behind the step behind the step. And what do you call your model there in terms of, it was like 4 Ps that kind of go through it, yeah?
Yeah. My Life CEO model is 5 Ps. Yeah.
5 Ps. I missed a P there too, and it's brilliant. And what I want our listeners to kind of get to today is that if you're struggling to, not just with your marketing, but if there's an area in your life that you're struggling to keep on moving forwards, I'm hoping that Ben will tell the story a little bit, or the metaphor in terms of the donkey carrot stick and why that doesn't often work for it, and what's kind of underneath it there as well. With regards to kind of, let's just say someone wants to increase their community outreach. They want to have more impact. They want to have more influence, more income, enjoyment in their practice as well there too. Can we run through that kind of 5P model and see how that might relate to them having more impact and reach in their community?
Yeah.
How would that work?
You see, willpower is the decision to step out into the uncomfortable zone, which is getting in front of the camera and going public. A lot of us, we're worried about going public, and we have this thing called imposter syndrome. Many of your listeners have heard about that before, right?
Yep.
Man, I had that. This book, I wrote about 90,000 words in just over 3 months.
Right, that's a lot.
And then it took another 3 months to finally send to Amazon, because of the imposter syndrome. There's hundreds of manuscripts, thousands of manuscripts written but never published, never have gone public. And I think part of it is because, and a great mentor of mine that helped me write this book, he said, mate, you're not writing the book for your peers. You're writing it for your clients. So we often, we look at the work we do and we think, what are our peers going to think? We need not to think that, because our peers, none of my coaching peers have read this, or maybe a couple, but none have read this, right?
Yes.
This book is written for my clients.
Yes.
Yeah. So first of all, I'd have them think, remember what you're putting out there, the content you're putting out there is for your clients, not for your peers.
Yep.
So I think that's important to get. So my model, really simply, is driven by the first P, which is key, which is purpose. I'm going to use I love a bit of flip chart paper. Purpose. That is, make sure that this is on purpose for you. That this is not a should. That this is something that you actually really want to do. That this is in alignment with your values. Do you really want to impact your community? Do you really want to build a big practice? Do you really want to see more patients? I mean, is that really what you want? Do you really want to make more money? I mean, if someone said, oh man, you should do video marketing. Do you really want to?
Yeah.
Just check in. Is this truly in alignment with your core values? So purpose is important. And I do a lot of work with clients in getting them to understand purpose. That there is an overall purpose to our life, a general direction to it. It has twists and turns like a river. A river flows in a certain direction, but it's full of twists and turns. That our purpose when we're 18 is different to our purpose at 28, which is different to our purpose at 48. But there's a general trend, there's a general direction to it.
Hey,
that
Ben,
purpose is supported.
Before, I got a question for you, because the concept of purpose for a long time paralyzed me. I was looking for a lightning bolt moment where I could articulate my purpose in 2 catchy sentences, and it would sit inside me like a fire that would drive me and get me up at 4 a.m. in the morning and keep me going until 2 a.m. the next morning there too. And the constant search for that was overwhelming. I couldn't find it. And so therefore I felt like I had no purpose. It almost led to a sense of failure inside of me. And it took me I'm talking, this was 10 or 15 years, because we talk about it a lot in chiropractic. What's your purpose? What's your purpose? You got in that kind of stuff there too. How do you, because I'm sure that a level of this to some extent comes up with the people that you're coaching. How does somebody find their purpose? And how do they identify whether this community outreach and video marketing system is part of their purpose?
So I help my clients articulate their purpose for now. We literally do articulate. We
Yes.
go, hey, let's just look at what are your values, what's important to you now. And if we were to take those values and put them into some kind of meaningful sentence, yes, what would that sound like? And just that's your purpose for now. But in 10 years, it's going to be like that, but different.
Yeah.
And in 10 years, it'll be kind of like that one, but different. Because there is a shift. So my example is always the Murray River. Mate, I don't know how much time we've got, but we could spend like 2 hours on this, right?
Yeah.
But
I know the boss. We can go for as long as we want.
And the Murray River kind of moves in that direction. But if I was to take a close-up of this and look in there, we'd see that part of the river, kind of is like that.
Yes.
So whilst there's an overall direction to your life, at moments, your purpose is heading in this direction. And at moments, your purpose is actually in this direction. And what we often fail to do is we fail to take the turn. Yeah, we're heading in this direction. To take the turn and to start heading in a new direction is sometimes uncomfortable. There's sometimes turbulence associated with that. We often see a big turn at 40, 45, 50 years of age. We call that the midlife crisis, right? And crisis it comes from the Greek word to sieve out. And so the crisis comes when to be on purpose is to take a shift in direction, to not keep going this way, but to take the turn. Like in the turn here, there is always turbulence. It's uncomfortable. It's rough. But to be on purpose is to take the turn. And there's many of those throughout our life. All the time we're having these slight shifts. If I was to look at the overall direction though, it's got an overall direction to it. Yeah. So what I do with clients is when they arrive, if it's today, we go, let's articulate what this direction is for now. And know that at some time there'll be a shift in that. It could be the shift in getting married, the shift in having kids, the shift in changing career, the shift in changing relationships, the shift in a change in your decision around the impact on community. You know, these kind of the shifts that we're going to make. But there's an overall trend to it. And that journey is supported by our missions, the different roles that we have. The mission around being, for me, being a dad, being a husband, I was going to say being a wife, being a husband, and that's okay. Nothing wrong with that. And the role around being a husband, the role around chiropractor, a coach. These are the missions that I use to fulfill that purpose. Recognizing that we are not our missions, they're simply vehicles. Because at some point, I may not be a chiropractor anymore. Yeah, I'll still be fulfilling my purpose, but I'll be using a different vehicle for that. Yeah. And so we help my clients articulate their missions. So importantly, the chiropractic mission, we get very clear around what that is, that career mission. By the way, mate, it's a different mission to your business mission. Right. The career mission and business mission are not the same. You can be in business and have any kind of career around that, right? So I'm a business owner. I also happen to be a coach and I happen to be a chiropractor.
Yes.
Yeah. So we articulate business mission, and in this case, for example, chiropractic mission. We make sure that they're both pointing in the same direction, they're supporting each other, that there's an alignment. So really importantly, and I've got another model for this, if this, I'll draw it this way, if that's your overall life purpose, that is supported by different missions. Yeah, husband, chiropractor, coach, business owner, father. These are different missions, and I want them all aligned so that when I'm working on my role as a husband, my business is getting better. When my business is better, I'm a better chiropractor. When I'm a better chiropractor, I'm a better father. That they're supporting each other. So many people find themselves in the middle here, and their career's going this way, their business is going this way, their relationships are going this way, their role as a father is going this way, and they're pulled in all sorts of directions. It's uncomfortable.
Yes.
They're constantly going, oh, should I do this one or should I do this one? They're trying to balance life.
Yes.
Screw that. Let's not balance life anymore. Let's create life alignment. Let's have everything swing around and point in the same direction. So there's a whole exercise around getting that alignment to happen.
Yes.
Because when you do, doing this, like I'm doing with you, it just feels so good. And I know that at the end of this hour, or 2 or 3 hours that we've got together, I'm going to feel better.
Yes.
Than I did when I started, because it's in alignment. And when I finish this, I'll walk out and talk to my daughter Eden, who's at the front desk today, studying second year chiro, and I'll be a better dad to her. When I get home to Michelle at lunch, I'll be a better husband. It's all aligned. Yeah. So it's really important that we get that clear, so that when it comes to video marketing, you go, hey, this feels good. This, I know there's an awkwardness to it and there's a bit of discomfort to it, but I'm going to do it because it is purpose driven.
Yeah, it's all heading in that same direction. It was interesting for me, and you've kind of articulated something that, one of the big aha moments for me was for me to realize that my role as a chiropractor wasn't my purpose. It was just one of the vehicles of my purpose. And it had become an identity for me it's who I was, not something that I did. And I don't mean that because so often in the chiropractic profession, we talk about, I am chiropractic. We get up on stage and we hear these kind of things there too. And then when I felt my inner purpose pulling me in another direction, like the work I'm doing now, I had this massive sense of guilt from it, because but I thought this was my purpose. It's like, no. I was able to simplify my purpose just as expansion. So that's it. That's my purpose here in life. It's expansion. Does this lead to expansion? Yes. So therefore I can play all these different games in terms of it. And does being a husband lead to me expanding? Absolutely. A dad, damn right. Running this podcast, yes, it calls more of me. As a chiropractor, all those kind of things there too. But there was two things in there that I just want to double tap on for our audience to make sure they've got this. Remember, your purpose is what is it for now? Like, just, this is not something that you're committing to for the rest of your life. What feels good now? It will evolve. New things will come from it there too. And realize that there are different roles that you play inside your purpose. These are just the vehicles that kind of help you move in that direction there. That aha moment for me was literally like a ton of weight coming off my shoulder to go. It freedom, which lent massive amounts of expansion through there too. So beautifully articulated, buddy. What comes next after purpose?
So once you're clear on purpose, so purpose is a real heart thing. It's a bit woo-wooey, right? It's not tangible.
Yeah.
It's a feeling. It's a heart space thing. So this purpose is heart. The next step is another P, which is plans. Plans. Plans is head. This is where you go, okay, so based on this purpose, here is my plan. And it's a plan for the year, for example, or the plan for the quarter. I talk to my clients about trimesters, which is a really cool thing. And I think it's worth us touching on this because it's really part of the marketing journey. And one of my mentors, Dave Dugan, he taught me this. It comes from another guy, but doesn't everything. So we talk about trimesters. So it's a 4-month plan. We do 3 of them a year, honestly. And it looks like this. And it's kind of good. And if you think about this as a journey for many of the things that we do, they tend to have these 4 components to them. And by the way, the growth looks it kind of looks like this. Growth in your impact, the growth in your finances, the growth in team, the growth in business. It looks like this. The first month is what we call activate. It's where we start the project. So, for example, I've been doing your amazing video course, and by the way, amazing. Like, seriously, I know I've given you that feedback, but
thank you.
But it's been Activate month for us. We've just been getting starting, right? Getting into the content. I recorded my first video yesterday using your methodology. So this first month is Activate. We're just like getting in. And in Activate month, you don't know what you don't know.
Yes.
Isn't that we start on a journey, we think we know, and it's not until we actually get into the journey we go, shoot, I didn't know about that. Well, I didn't realize it's that. I didn't realize that. And so Activate month is often really a busy time. Yeah, but not a lot of production.
Yeah.
That's because you're getting into the project. The next month is what we call Calibrate, which is where you now know what the project entails. You're now in it, you understand it, and now's a time to kind of calibrate. I'm going to change my goal on that. I think I've I bit off maybe more than I could chew, or I'm going to increase the goal, or now I realise I need another team member. And, so we start to calibrate. We start to get a little bit of traction. So, for example, like I said, I did my first video yesterday, and now there's going to be some calibration around that. How could I improve it? Where do I need to tweak it? What other things do I need to buy, or whatever it may be? And then, of course, this cool month is Accelerate.
Yeah.
This is where we take off. This is where we've got done the work. We've got the systems in place. We're calibrated, and now we let it rip, and the things take off. And so for me, this next month will be lots of calibration around video production, and then we'll hit November, and it'll be like, boom, we're out there. The videos are great. They're getting traction. We're getting views, etc. Accelerate. And then importantly, there is this 4th month, which is Celebrate. And the purpose of Celebrate is to take a pause, is to go, that was an epic 3 months. Wow. Look at the results.
Yeah.
And it's really just to acknowledge, catch your breath, take a holiday, take a day off, take a week off. Let the systems and strategies keep working. So it doesn't necessarily always drop off, right? let the systems and strategies keep working, and take a breath, celebrate, and then go, what's next? What's the next trimester? What am I going to do? What's the next project? Is it this project at another level, or is it another project? Is it something else we need to do? And so we spend the last week or two in here doing some thinking and planning and critical thinking about my next level projects. Yep. And then, of course, we hit activate again. A lot of people go back to back. They start a project, and just as they're finished, they start their team on the next project.
Yeah.
This Celebrate month is so important to take a breather. Yeah. So planning, we articulate it well. I have a model around that. It's called the track model of goal setting. It brings in heart and head. It creates beautiful accountability. It makes sure that the goals will be achieved. You know, we set so many goals that we just don't achieve, and we beat ourselves up because of it. We set ourselves up for failure, not success. So this track goal setting method helps people set up for success so they get the goal.
Yes.
You know, so it is a Celebrate month. Plans. And importantly, we're back to kind of heart space stuff, and we talk about personality. Who do you need to be? What's the character? What's the ethos? What's the culture that you need to bring to the office, to home, in your role as a father, when it comes to your health? Because the character that I'm being here with you, this is pretty much Coach Ben that you're seeing today. That's the character I'm bringing. When I get home to Michelle, she doesn't want Coach Ben. I can tell you, I've tried. She doesn't want it.
No, big mistake.
I sometimes get that a little confused. When I get home, she gets to be Coach Michelle. Anyway, and then who I was at the gym this morning was Gym Ben. That was Health Ben. Yeah, it's a different version. And so one of the things we do is we get to, with clients, is we get to really get clear around who do you need to be. And that's so important, again, when it comes to marketing. What's the character you need to bring? And I know in your video, of course, you talk about being authentic, right?
Yes.
And you and I had this brief conversation, which I think maybe started the reason I'm on here today, is this conversation around being the authentic you, but the version of your authentic you that's required at the time.
Yes.
And I think I gave you this model. Some of your audience may have some kind of four-wheel drive at home. It's got a little selector dial. Do you know, like you start the car up and it's always in road mode. And whatever the car is, it is whatever. So we've got a Range Rover. It's a Range Rover. Start her up, it's in road mode. But if I go to the snow, I'm going to turn that dial over here to snow mode. And the transmission changes, the suspension changes, the engine management system changes, the braking system changes, the character of the car changes to suit that terrain. It's called terrain response in Land Rover. So it's the most effective and efficient. It works best in that environment. And so for us, we need to recognise that we can change our personality, our character, to suit our environment. And it's important that we do. That's how we set ourselves up for success. If I'm going down the hill, I put it on hill descent mode. If I'm in the rocks, I put it on rock mode. If I'm in the mud, I put it in mud mode. It changes the character to suit the terrain. We need to do that when we're a dad, when we're a husband, when we're a chiropractor, when we're a business owner. These are different settings. So personality, the character, who we are, super important. Does that make sense? Yeah.
Yeah, it's such a great question in terms of, that idea. And it was the model that you laid out me. I mean, you had this plan come to me that we went through at the very beginning, saying this is what we want to achieve, and it went all the way through from what is our mission here as well. Here's who we need to be. Here's our level of accountabilities. And it was such a strong foundation that immediately looking at it, I went, the guys can't fail. They're going to move forwards with regards to, and I love that, that idea of, because so often people will say things like, I'm just not the kind of person that will make videos. Well, then be the kind of person that makes videos. Like if you want the kind of results that person gets, then be that person. Like it's not rocket science, just be them. We get to choose who we want to be. And it was kind of interesting. On another note, I got an email from a guy recently that he was kind of saying, look, change isn't as hard as what you think it is. Like he said, how hard was it for you to become you now? Like It wasn't. Like you naturally just became that it funneled you in that direction. So funnel yourself in another direction with regards to that too. I love that question of, who do I need to be? It's a super powerful question from there too. Love it. What comes up?
The guy that goes, I don't know whether I want to make videos.
Yes.
This is purpose. Do you want to?
Yes.
Now, when I really go into the critical thinking, when I spend that quiet time and just go in and ask,
yep,
I really do want it.
Yeah.
I really, really do.
Yeah.
But I'm scared. But I don't know who I need to be to actually do that. Well, that's when then you kind of ask this question. So who do I need to be? I know I want to. Who do I need to be? I need to be courageous.
Yes.
I need to be authentic. I need to be vulnerable.
Yep.
I need to be strong. I need to be disciplined. I need to have willpower. These are the character traits you need to bring to video. Yep. So personality then drives. Now, by the way, this is the why. Now,
yep.
This is why. This is how. This is B. This bit. Because those first three, by the way, you do in the armchair.
Yes.
The world doesn't change. When you work out your character, your personality, and what's important to you, when you put the plans in place and you chart all that, and then when you work out the character you need to bring, the world is no different. You can do all that in the armchair. But eventually, you've actually got to be productive.
Yes.
You've got to bring productivity. And this is the do. This is getting stuff done. This is the strategy work. These are the skills that we need to bring. This is what you bring in your video course. This is how you do it. Yeah. So being productive. A lot of people either don't do the first bit and just try and do the do.
Yes.
Coaching clients will come to me and say, mate, just tell me what I need to do. What do I need to do? And I go, well, you could just Google that. Right? All the do is on Google.
Yeah. Yep.
But mate, I wonder, who do you need to be? And if we actually got any real plans in place, like, do we know what the outcome is? How do we actually set you up for success so you can celebrate? And importantly, is it really in alignment with where you're heading?
Yeah.
And so productivity is important. I love it, and I do love that around, particularly when it comes to your guys and marketing.
Yes.
Don't let perfect get in the way of productive.
Before we get into productivity, I want to ask you a question. I just want to go back to personality, that in terms of who do I need to be? Let's just say I identify that I need to be courageous and determined and brave and all those kind of things. Okay, I identify those things. So it's one thing to identify, but how do I start to practice that way of being? How do I start to instill those character traits so that's who I become?
Yeah. So I think that there's a try it on. You've actually got to try the brave outfit on. You've got to try the courageous. You've got to try the vulnerable outfit on. And it's really easy. You just go and model that. Look at that guy. What's he doing? He's obviously brave. He's obviously this. What's his tonality like? What's his movement like? State who you be. I've got room on this page. Your personality, these different character traits, your state is driven by three things. It's driven by what you focus on.
Yes.
Where you put your attention.
Yep.
What am I thinking about? I'm focusing on, so for example, my state, who I'm being today. As I said to you earlier, I look out, it's a beautiful sunny day. It's 26 degrees. Mate, I'm going to finish with you, go home, chat with Michelle. I've got the afternoon off. Like, my focus is I'm just so excited about today, right?
Yes.
That's what my focus is. The language I use, and this is not just the language that comes out of my mouth. That's really important. But the language in here.
Yeah, internal as well.
The questions we ask ourselves. Why am I so lucky? I wonder what I'm going to do with my whole afternoon out in the sunshine. These are quality questions versus, why does life suck? Why didn't that work out? The not so quality, not resourceful questions. The quality of life is a reflection of the quality of the questions that you ask. So language is important. Physiology, anyone who's in healthcare, we know this bit, right? that how you look after your body, how you move it, how you hold it, the internal chemistry determines your state. You know, one of the most powerful things that I was talking about this recently to a group that I was presenting to, and we were talking about physiology. And I said, you know, for example, guys, you know, when you drink alcohol, it borrows happiness from the future.
Yeah, good model.
You know, and so you have that glass and you feel a bit happier, and you have the second and you feel a bit happier, and it's just borrowing from tomorrow. And isn't it true, right? We wake up the next morning and we just don't feel as happy.
Yeah.
There's a bit of sadness with it. Yeah. Physiology, chemistry is so important. You know, Jordan Peterson, 12 Rules for Life. Do you know the book? Yeah.
Yeah, brilliant.
Yeah. Number 1 chapter, stand up straight.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's a clinical psychologist, but he gets the importance of physiology when it comes to your state. So physiology, and then really importantly, and I didn't buy into this in the beginning, and lots of us in this positive psychology kind of world don't really buy into it. But these 3 things are then surrounded by environment. And that is, I would have said in the past that environment supported state. That you and I could do this podcast out on the highway. And if we brought the right state, focus, physiology, and language, it could be epic.
Yes.
And I believe that is true. But geez, it's easier to do it in this environment, isn't it?
Yeah, let's not make it any harder than it needs to be.
But you listen to Dan, I always get his last name right, Butterman.
Yes.
He's a guy working for National Geographic the last 20 years. He coined the term the blue zones.
Right.
The 7 places around the world where people live, you know, to 100 on average, more than anywhere else in the world.
Yep. I
saw him being interviewed, and it was a Rich Roll podcast, which, by the way, I love Rich. If you're watching this, Rich, I love you.
He's a big fan of the Marketing Your Practice podcast. So Rich will be watching. So
yes,
Rich,
I bet he is.
Good work.
He was interviewing Dan, and he said, Dan, so what's the secret, right, to this 100-year-old thing? And Dan said, look, no doubt, what they eat and the exercise and their community and all those factors, he said. But the thing that underpins it all, the main factor, is environment.
Yep.
They live in an environment where there are no fast food shops. There are no big supermarkets. Everything is raw ingredients, which they have to cook and prepare from. And they live, just out of town where they've got to walk in and walk back. There's no roads.
Yeah.
Right? And on the way in, they've got to pass their neighbours and have a conversation with the neighbours. So there's this social connection. And when they get home, they've got to chop the wood to light the fire, to create the heat, to cook the food. Environment causes them to exercise and to eat that way and to socialise that way. Yeah. He said, environment doesn't support performance, it dictates it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so, again, with my coaching clients, I go, hey, what's your environment like? When you go to work, when you stand in your office, do you walk in and unlock the door and go, yeah, can't wait? Or do you walk in and go, oh my God, what a brothel. There's crap everywhere. I don't even know where to start. I've got more piles of unfinished work than I can stand to look at. Environment dictates performance. Who you're hanging out with. We all know the story. Take the 5 closest friends, average their health, their wealth, their relationships. That is, if you average that, that is your health. That is your wealth. That is your relationships. If you want to do better, get better friends. So environment is super important. So those 3 things plus environment determines your state. Courage, consistency, blah, 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 blah.
Love it. What a great answer. Beautiful. Beautiful, beautiful.
So that's personality. Productivity. These are just the do steps, and I have a whole range of kind of productivity things. One of my key productivity steps that I talk a lot about is the concept of compressing for quality.
Mm-hmm. What do you mean by that?
How could you do less, spend less money, spend less time, spend less energy, spend less sanity, and get a better result? So this is not how could you cut corners. This is not how could you get the same result for less. But this is how could you apply a strategy and actually get a better result for less. Mm-hmm. Yep. And I think, for example, Zoom is one of those things.
Yep.
This has cost us no money to do this.
Yep.
It's cost us time, yes, but less energy and me driving. For example, if I had to drive to your studio,
yep,
the time and the energy and the effort and the sanity and the traffic and all that sort of stuff. Yeah, so less of those, but we've actually improved the quality. Zoom has improved the quality of our communications. We've become better at communicating. We've become better at putting our message through both audio and through a visual medium. So Zoom is one of those tools where I think there's been a compression, but an increase in quality. We can now connect with more people. I now coach globally rather than locally because of Zoom. Yeah.
And it's allowed us both, for our audience that are watching this, I mean, clearly, it's given you your space of magic there with your, flip chart and those kind of things. Me, my space here as well. It's my question was going to be, can you give me an example of this? How do we compress and still get something greater? And that's a great answer there, that this has been easier for both of us. No travel, minimal cost, so we can go longer than 40 minutes there. I think it costs me $20 a month or whatever it is there too. And we're both in our spaces there. So yeah, love it.
Yeah. I think, and it's things like, and we see that in many chiropractic practices. I remember back in my old chiropractic practice when we're paper based, we had files.
Yes.
And rather than the CA, the chiropractic assistant, greet the patient and then take the patient down to the room carry the file for them, and sit them down and then put the file in the slot in the door or on the desk, ready for the chiropractor to come down. A compression for quality was we gave the patient the file and said, John, down to area number 2.
Mm.
And John took himself down with his file to area number 2. Mm. So we've just compressed the CA's energy and time.
Mm.
How do we improve the quality? Well, the patient now goes, wow, this is my file. This has got all my health data in it. We're trusting them with their data. So often, in the healthcare system, no, we're not going to send you your results. You've got to go to the doctor to get your results, right? Mm-hmm. And so the patient's now carrying their own data. They're feeling more empowered. They're in control of their health file. And then they sit there and they might wait 3 or 4 minutes for you. And while they're sitting there, they open the file and they see your notes. They see the history and they go, wow, that's right. I remember I used to have headaches 3 times a week. I forgot about that. And they look at their x-ray results and they go, yeah, my neck, that's right, degeneration, arthritic change.
Mm.
So we're increasing the quality of their experience. We're increasing their knowledge. We're increasing their sense of responsibility. We're empowering the patient, but we've just compressed the energy required in the practice.
Yeah.
Compression for quality.
What are some of the big mistakes that you see people making, Ben, on the productivity side of things? So we talked about kind of not compressing. What are the other issues that people are making? And assuming that they've done the steps beforehand of purpose and plans and personality, what are some of the other hurdles?
I think one of the big ones is to-do lists.
Right.
Yeah. So I'll often get clients to start with the to-do. They go, like, what are all the things you need to do for this current project? And so they've got this big to-do list. So they've got this list, and then we take those items, and we take that item, and we put it into a done-on list. Not a done-by list, a done-on. Mm-hmm. So, for example, it's I've got to call John, I've got to record a video, and I've got to edit the video. Well, call John is in my to-do list, but I'm going to take it and put it on a done-on list. Mm-hmm. I'm going to take it and stick it in my calendar. On Wednesday at 3:15 p.m, I've got to call John. Now, I can forget about calling John until Wednesday at 3:15 now. But many of us go around with these huge to-do lists in our head in overwhelm, and it paralyzes us. The moment we stop it being a to-do and we make it a done-on. A lot of people have to-do lists that are done by. I got to get all those things done by Friday.
Yeah.
And then it just consumes us. Take it, put it done on, and get it scheduled in the calendar. So I've got my video to be recorded, scheduled. It was scheduled yesterday. It was scheduled for 1 o'clock yesterday till 2 o'clock, record a video. Then I can forget about it until Thursday at 1 o'clock. I look at my calendar, boom, nailed. Because we now live in 2020 and we're more productive than ever. We've got more to do than ever. Mm-hmm. We need to be more time aware. By the way, we have two different timelines. This is interesting to know and for us to understand.
Yep.
We have a timeline that often runs in front of us.
Yes.
And you can do this as a very simple exercise. Close your eyes, think about past, think about future, join the two with a line. And does that line run through you? Does it run in front of you? And for some of us, it runs in front of us.
Yes.
And we can actually see the increments. It's like putting a ruler in front of us.
Yep.
And we can see time laid out in front of us. These people are always on time. They're always, they know exactly, they don't even need a calendar, right? Because they can see time in front of them. They can see the past, they can see the future, they can see where they are now. They're often not very present because they're outside of time and they can see, they can see what's happening in an hour and what happened 1 hour ago.
Yep.
Versus someone else who where time runs through them, it's like you can see this pen on how long it is.
Uh-huh.
If I turn it like that, how long is it?
Yeah, okay. It's
hard to tell, right? You can see there's a future. There's a past, and the future often you can see it's incredible. It's like you can see all the way down, but you can't see what a minute looks like, or an hour looks like, or even what a day looks like, because the way time is being presented to you. These people, man, they need a calendar. They need a schedule book. They're always running late. But they're super present because they're right in it. They're right in the moment all the time. And then they're in the next moment and they're in their next moment because they can't see an hour from now. Yeah. So time is important. Productivity step, take to-do lists, stop the overwhelm, put it on a done-on list, get it scheduled, get it off the to-do list and into your calendar. Probably the best thing people can do.
Great. I want to see if I can kind of give a summary of this. And so if our audience is trying to work out what does this mean for me? Many of us have things that we want to do in our life. And in the context of this podcast, we might be talking about kind of getting some marketing up and going from your practice, but maybe it's another area as well. I've been guilty too often to go straight to that kind of productivity stage. What do I need to do? Get my to-do list out there too, even if I get it scheduled in my calendar there too. But what I'm understanding is often when that doesn't turn out the way I want it to, it's because it's built on a weak foundation. And I haven't gone right back beginning at purpose and saying, look, does this actually fulfill my life's purpose? Is this heading in the direction I want to go from there? Then from there, I've got this concept of kind of plans and then personality. I can start to kind of work those things. If I have a foundation that's built on that too, you talked about purpose being very kind of heartfelt, plans being very kind of brain sort of side of things there as well. Personality and productivity, where do they fit in?
Personality, kind of heart,
Yes.
It's a feeling, it's a character thing. Versus productivity is make steps, it's calendars, it's timelines, it's your video coaching program. Let's do this framework. Yeah. Productivity is a very doey, very analytical component.
Yeah. You know what else was really powerful for me too, Ben, and thank you for articulating this so clearly. Because there is that idea of, I get the concept of who do I need to be? And they go, okay, I need to be courageous. How do I be that then now? But I feel like now I've got a framework that's actually much easier for me to implement when we kind of think about, yes, what does my environment tend to encourage me to be courageous as well? What's my focus? What's my language? What's my physiology there as well? So, buddy, can you, in this last kind of sum up from here, any final thoughts in around this kind of model that will help with some implementation? And then where do our listeners go to find the book, to find more about you, to engage more with you?
Right. Awesome. Let me wrap. The last key, by the way, is profit.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because remember, that's what we want. You want to be at the end of the week, the month of the year, a better husband.
Yeah.
A better father, a better business owner, a better chiropractor. Are you actually profiting? And then the profit step is really just taking the pause. It's a bit of that celebration step, taking the pause, reflecting, acknowledging, reporting back to the board, as your life CEO, reporting back to the board going, hey, here's what I did. This is what's happened for the last month. And making sure that we are profitable, making sure that what we've produced, by the way, is back in alignment with purpose. Or have we produced something and we reflect and go, hang on, that's not in alignment. Yeah. In fact, that was a should. That was someone else's purpose that I somehow got sucked into doing. So profit is an important step, and there's kind of an analysis around that. Your question, I had a great answer to your question, and now I've gone and lost it. Your question was, sum up. Oh, yes, I got it.
Yeah.
Mate, and it goes all the way through. And I think probably when it comes back to here, to personality and environment, get people around you that champion you.
Yeah.
That believe in you, that will give you the leg up. They won't do it for you. And I guess the analogy is this, if someone's in quicksand, we have some people that are out there that are rescuers. Don't be one, and don't rescue people. So someone's in the quicksand, they go, the person's yelling out for help, and you jump into the quicksand with them and try and give them a leg up, and then you end up in the quicksand as well. That's what I would call sympathy. Versus empathy is where someone's in the quicksand and they're yelling out for help. You go, dude, what's going on? They go, oh man, I need some help in quicksand. You get a rope tied to a tree and you throw them the rope and you say, hey, pull yourself out.
Mm.
So you need to find people that are like that throw you the rope, that give you support, but allow you to remain empowered. Because the last thing we want to do is have someone that does something for us because they get the full credit.
Mm.
Yeah, it's really important that we start building that muscle, that we start becoming stronger and we start believing in ourselves more, that we set ourselves up for success, but we surround ourselves with people that champion us. It's the work I do as a coach. It's the work that you do as a coach. And I'm not here to promote, my practice and your business, but I am here to say, hey, find people that believe in you and champion you. It's the most important thing we do. This journey of being an entrepreneur and a business owner, it's not something that we're supposed to do alone. Being a father, not something we're supposed to be alone. Do alone. Find other fathers that are like-minded, that are on a similar purpose journey to you, that will champion you and support you. I remember when I started doing triathlons a few years ago, man, I just went through my patient list and went, who does triathlons? I'm going to contact them and say, hey, can we catch up for a coffee? Mm-hmm. I want to surround myself with these people that believe that triathlons can be done, that have strategies around that will champion me around that are so passionate about it. Okay, come on, Benny, there's a race next weekend. Why don't you come along? I'll meet you there. Hey, here's the gear that you're going to need. That's what we need to do.
Yeah.
In so many different aspects of our life. Find a support network that will champion you. And I look at the great successes I've had from Max Joseph adjusting me at 17 and the mentorship that he gave me into chiropractic. Incredible champion support. And I certainly wouldn't be where I am now without their mentorship.
Mm. Yeah, it's deep for you, isn't it? That real sense of, and that's another reflection of environment, isn't it? So environment, these are people that have literally forced you into excellence as well. Mm. Hey, buddy, thank you for sharing so generously with us today. Thanks for going through a busted foot for 6 months to learn how to do all this stuff and, all those tiny little turns in the Murray River, like you kind of said before. For those of you that have listened to this episode too, it might be worth a watch back on the video as well. There's some great pictures that, that Ben has drawn, but I think you'll get the gist of what he's shared from there as well. How can our audience find you, get a hold of the book, experience a bit more of Ben Magic?
Yeah, Google Dr. Ben Carvosso or Google, Life CEO book. Yeah. It's available on all good bookstores locally and, of course, online.
Yeah.
And then my website, there's heaps of cool resources on there. There's a great scorecard they can take to kind of get an insight to where they are at as far as being their own life CEO. And by all means, reach out. Send me an email. I'm happy to kind of connect.
Yeah, lovely. I'll have all those details in the show notes too. Hey, buddy, enjoy your afternoon. Get out in the sun. Hang out with beautiful Michelle. And again, thank you. I look forward to chatting with you again real soon.
Thanks, mate. Terrific. Cheers.
Take care. If you enjoyed listening to this podcast, you have to come and check out the Community Influencer Program. It's my monthly coaching program where we take all this material and I'll work one-on-one with you to apply, implement, systematize, and help guide you and your practice to the next level. Now you can join me on over at adiomedia.com/join. That's adiomedia.com/join. I'd love to see you in there.